Jack was born aloof, all his emotions were given to his deceased Vivian. Family advised me not to be too paranoid, but I couldn't let it go, chased him for 7 years like a moth to a flame. Eventually, he relented, and I thought my wish had finally come true. Until I saw with my own eyes him intimately entangled with his secretary who bore a striking resemblance to that person. It dawned on me that living people could never compete with the dead. After the wedding was called off, I became the abandoned woman of high society in the media and public eye. But later, that superior man groveled to me countless times, begging me to come back. When Jack agreed to be with me, I was so happy that I couldn't sleep all night. But soon, reality dashed my joy. Even though I became Jack's girlfriend as I had wished, he never introduced me to his friends. Even when I was in excruciating pain from illness, he was still out carousing. Daisy advised me to break up early, saying there was no future with this dead man as a boyfriend you know who resides in Jack's heart. It's Vivian, his childhood sweetheart. But I still wanted to give it a shot. Because Vivian was already dead. She would only be an ex for Jack, while I am his future. I believed that one day I would be the special one in Jack's heart. So far, I have persevered for 7 years. Isn't it just a matter of time until Jack relents, willing to be with me? My originally low spirits were lifted once again. I picked up the phone and dialed Jack's number. It took until the third call for someone to pick up on the other end. It's late now, when are you coming back tonight? But a woman's voice came through. Sorry, Jack drank too much tonight and fell asleep at my place. If you have anything to say, I can pass it along for you. My mind went blank, and I abruptly hung up the phone. I recognized that voice. It was Jack's secretary. I rushed to the hotel where Jack usually stayed. Standing at the door, I felt a strange sensation in my heart. Behind this door, perhaps, lay the path of my future love life. Finally, I used a spare card to open the door. In the dim light inside, the two of them were tightly embraced on the couch. The secretary's clothes were in disarray, leaving only a piece of underwear, while the man's hand was on her lower back. Jack, she whispered his name, while caressing his chest. After a profound visual shock, I dropped the spare card to the floor. The crisp sound seemed particularly abrupt in the silent room. The two on the couch froze their movements. The secretary turned to look at me. In that moment, I felt as if my blood was flowing backward, causing me to shudder involuntarily. In the dim light, I seemed to see Jack's Vivian returning. At that moment, I could no longer deceive myself. His carousing outside was never business-related. He didn't love me, even though I had loved him for 7 years. With a cold body, I stared at them for a while, then picked up the room card, gently closed the door, returned the card to the front desk, and decided I would never come back here again. I had heard an inspiring saying before, seen New York at 3 a.m. Now, I had seen the deserted streets at 3 a.m. The wind was chilly, blowing trash all around. A stall owner came out and handed me a bowl of hot soup. It's cold outside, you're dressed so lightly, don't catch a cold. Even a stranger cared for me, but the phone in my tightly clenched hand remained eerily silent. Jack never contacted me throughout. Seeing me staring at the phone, the stall owner sighed. Had a fight with your boyfriend, huh? That guy has some nerve, not coming out to find you so late at night. I suddenly felt the urge to confide. I hoarsely spoke. I caught him in a hotel room with a woman. Should I forgive him? She instantly flared up. That's unforgivable. My ex-husband used to be like that too, but I couldn't divorce him back then. My child was only 3 years old. I brought the child up until they started elementary school. Then I came out to set up this stall. Despite the low income, I can support us. So, I kicked him out. Big sis isn't telling you to break up, but if you can support yourself, don't keep sacrificing yourself. In your parents' eyes, you are a treasure. If they knew how much you are suffering, they'd be heartbroken. In my parents' eyes, I am also a treasure. At home, I didn't have to do anything. But now, I cook and clean for Jack every day, doing household chores better than a maid. Even if my parents argue with me, the next day there will always be dishes I love on the table. But when I quarrel with Jack, he locks me out. When I was with Jack, my parents warned me that he was cold and not one to settle down, that I would be unhappy in the future. But at that time, I naively thought that as long as I loved him, it would be enough, that I could move him. In the end, I was the only one moved. Squatting on the side of the road, I drank the soup with tears back home, looking at the cozy decoration that I bought. I had imagined marrying Jack here, having a cute baby, and enjoying the sun on the balcony. Now I just glanced at it and started packing with a small suitcase. Moving really shows whether someone loves you. His closet was filled with clothes, watches, and bags I bought him, while I only received flowers from his secretary on holidays. Yet, I endured this kind of love for 7 years. After finishing packing, I heard the door open. Jack came back, reeking of alcohol, his shirt wrinkled with a bright red lipstick stain. He always brushed it off, saying not to think too much. But this time, when I told him we should break up, he didn't take me seriously. As I placed the keys on the coffee table and announced I was leaving, Jack finally noticed the suitcase and asked if we were going on a trip. I shook my head and calmly told him it was over. He scoffed, but I had already made up my mind, leaving the keys behind. I headed for the door. Jack's angry voice echoed, questioning my 7-year pursuit and asking if I was really giving up. Yes, not only giving up but also cutting ties. He knew I had tolerated everything for him, but not anymore. Once I moved out, I went back home. My parents, who had always disapproved of Jack, welcomed me warmly. They didn't ask about the breakup, simply making sure my room was clean and preparing my favorite dishes, including spicy food, which I hadn't enjoyed in a long time. Nobody asked about Jack, and I found peace at the mention of his name. Not sad, not resentful, just indifferent. Daisy has been discussing cooperation here these days. When she found out I couldn't find a suitable job, she teased me, "What, Grace can't find a job anymore? Come on, tonight I'll accompany you to drink and forget all your worries." I turned to the wardrobe and found a backless long dress, did light makeup, and wore high heels. Looking at myself in the mirror, I felt so pretty. Mom casually asked, "Who are you going out with?" I kissed Mom's cheek and explained, "Who else? Daisy invited me for drinks and asked Dad not to sleep early, he'll pick me up at night." Mom happily said, "Young people should have fun, I'll make some hangover soup for you." My mom is the best in the world. How could I have neglected my parents for a man who loved me before? I regret it so much. Daisy looked very pleased with my outfit today. She decisively called 10 handsome male models to stand in front of me. I was shocked and asked, "Daisy, how much did this cost?" Daisy laughed and said, "These are the new models our company signed. We called them to hang out today. They are flying back to London in a few days. Would you consider coming with me?" I was envious and swallowed hard. I want to go too, but my parents are getting old. I want to spend more time with them. This reason Daisy couldn't refuse. She nodded, "Okay, if I find you with that jerk again, I'll break your leg." I raised my glass and clinked with her. "Don't worry, I used to be silly, but now I've learned my lesson." The male models sat on both sides of Daisy and me, creating quite a scene. Many people looked at us, even the screen above the dance floor often showed us. A very handsome male model asked me, "I heard you're looking for a job, why not start your own studio?" Daisy nudged me, grinning. I shrugged, "No money." The male model boldly offered, "I'll invest in you, is $1 million enough?" My jaw dropped in surprise. Looking at his watch, I swallowed hard. "You're so rich, why model?" He chuckled, "Just for fun. My parents gave me 3 years, if I fail, I'll inherit the family business." Daisy added, "Otherwise, do you think I still have money to buy you drinks?" If not for Vincent saying he'll foot the bill, was tempted, bit my lip. How about we discuss a collaboration? After all, the salary here is really low, I can't stand it. Vincent took out his phone, we added each other as friends. He was so young, only 21 years old, still a master's student in economics abroad. To make sure he was serious, Vincent transferred $1 million to me right away. "Do well, if you need more money, come to me." Excited, I raised my hand, I'll get the contract sorted in the next few days. After deducting the investment, we split the profits 50-50. I won't let you down. Vincent smiled lightly and clinked glasses with me. Grace, you don't need to be so polite. This $1 million is just pocket money for me. If I lose, I lose. That's the world of the rich. As we were chatting happily, Daisy suddenly nudged me and signaled to look ahead. I looked up in confusion and saw Jack walking towards me with a cold face. Long time no see. He used to be handsome, but now he just looks a so-so. Maybe that's what not loving someone does to you. Jack's face was grim, looking down at me, his voice cold as ice. Grace, where have you been all these days? Vincent, with a hint of sarcasm, offered. Grace, do you want me to help? I shook my head lightly, smiled. No need, he's just my ex-boyfriend. Just the word ex made Jack collapse emotionally, reaching out to pull me away. Daisy stood in the way, other male models stood up as well, and Vincent lazily said, "Don't be rude, be gentle when talking to a lady." Jack glanced at him, surprised. Seems like Vincent's background is indeed very prominent. I had almost finished my drink and didn't want to ruin their mood, so I stood up holding my bag. I'll stop here today, you guys enjoy. Let's meet again next time. Daisy was a bit mad. Grace. I smiled and pinched Daisy's cheek, promising, "Don't worry, I said I let go, so let go or you come break my leg anytime." I glanced at Jack's face and sneered, "I don't want to spoil someone's mood." Vincent seemed very satisfied with my response, a smirk played on his lips. Jack's face grew colder. With that promise, Daisy was assured and let me go. I followed Jack out of the bar, not forgetting to message Dad to come pick me up. Outside the bar, everything was quiet. Jack took out a cigarette and lit it. I carefully observed his expression, a bit tired, bloodshot eyes, dry skin, messy hair, but still in great shape, his tailored suit outlining his perfect waistline. When he doesn't smile, he's icy, but when he does, there's a hint of rogue in it, a bit of a bad boy vibe. In college, he was the campus heartthrob, many girls liked his type, including myself. But now, seeing him again, he seemed quite ordinary, not as handsome as the male models just now, and nowhere near Vincent. Although they are both rich kids, their manners and upbringing are completely different. Jack frowned as he observed me. What's with that look? I smirked. Sorry, may I ask what you want from me? I couldn't deny that traveling abroad with Daisy for a month had been quite effective, my mind filled with many beautiful yet short-lived images, making it feel like breaking up with him had been a long time ago. Jack chuckled lightly, scrutinizing me. Do you have a new lover? I was a bit speechless but replied politely, Jack, you have to understand, we've broken up, there's no connection anymore, so it's really rude of you to ask that question. Jack casually extinguished the cigarette and tossed it into the trash can, looking proud. You've had enough fun during this time, and it's time to come back now. I glanced at the secretary standing not far away, half smiling. You really have some inexplicable self-confidence. As I said those words, my phone rang. I looked at the car with hazard lights on the side of the road, waved and smiled, then turned to Jack. Have a good night and remember to stay away from me. With that, I got into my dad's car without looking back. I was very happy tonight. I got $1 million investment. Also, goodbye Jack, I really have no feelings left for you. As long as your heart is filled with enough things, it's really easy to forget what happened before. Establishing a studio was my dream in college, although late, but at least not absent. I'd been busy for the past half month, dragging my parents to help find an office, do the decoration, draft contracts, and bring in clients. Vincent saw our studio in a video and gave us a thumbs up. I raised an eyebrow with a serious face and said, "From now on, please call me boss." Vincent chuckled and nodded, "Sure thing, boss. From now on, I am no longer someone's girlfriend, but an independent and equal entity." I thought I wouldn't reopen the previous social platform, but many of my client resources are there, needing me to contact them. After opening my phone, I deleted unnecessary contacts, changed my profile picture to the studio logo, posted a picture of the studio's address in my moments, and chatted with previous clients to invite them to dinner. I used to be the head of the design department at Jack's company, not only good at design but also good at socializing. Plus, with the big clients Vincent brought in, I think I can break even in at most 6 months. My dad was already retired and had nothing to do at home, so he became my full-time driver. He thought the boss should drive a good car, so he used his savings to buy a Mercedes. This indeed made it much easier to negotiate those high-end deals. My mom heard that the takeout near the company was not good, so she started cooking for us at home and delivered the food to us every day. With timely work hours, double overtime pay, one-time performance bonuses, comprehensive social security benefits even for interns, the company quickly grew in scale. Vincent found time to come by, and I thought he was just visiting, but he brought his dad with him and even increased his investment. In just 3 months, there was a profit on paper, so I decided to take everyone to the beach for a team-building trip to relax. My colleagues were all very happy. Those with families brought their families along. Couples drew hearts and wrote their names in the sand on the beach. I adjusted my sunscreen shawl and smiled as I watched them. I used to do the same, writing Jack's name over and over again on the beach. Who would have thought that the person I loved deeply for 7 years, I could completely let go of in just 6 months? After the team building, we had a barbecue, drank, and had heart-to-heart conversations. The youngest colleague in the company raised his glass to me. "Boss, you are a breath of fresh air in the world of finance." I smiled lightly. I was once an employee myself. I understand the struggles everyone goes through. I have all this, thanks to Vincent. After the drinking, male colleagues in the company escorted female colleagues home. I gave my parents some time off and sent them to Hawaii for half a month, so the youngest male colleague offered to drive me home. He was a very sincere person, insisting on taking me to the entrance of my building. As I turned the key, the door had just opened and a force pushed me from behind. The sensor lights came on, and Jack's face came into view, the strong smell of alcohol in the air. I furrowed my brows and took a few steps back, keeping my distance from him, glancing at the vase in the entrance. If he dared to force himself, he shouldn't blame me for being impolite. Jack's tone was cold and unquestionable. "Who was the guy you came back with? Your new boyfriend? How could you at such a young age? You dare to make a move already?" I didn't want to anger a drunk person, so I explained calmly, "He's an employee at my company." Jack sneered, carefully examining me. "Your suit doesn't come cheap, right? Your hair, once disheveled, is now neatly tied up. What a big change. You started a company and snatched quite a few of my clients." I sneered inwardly and pursed my lips. Those customers were originally mine to begin with. Now that they want to work with me, are you really that petty? Jack laughed incredulously. "I'm not short of money. You followed me for so long, and you still don't understand that?" On the first day we met, he gave me a credit card with no spending limit. I nodded with a smile. "You're not short of money, but do you know I've never actually used that card before?" This surprised him. I shrugged. "Well, you've given that card to so many women, and the constant spending notifications on your phone, you didn't bother to find out whose they were?" Jack took out his phone and searched, his expression soon turning serious. "You really never used that card? Then where did the money come from for the things you bought for me?" I laughed tears. "I earned it by working overtime at your company. I saved half a year's salary to buy you that watch. But you only wore it once and then forgot who you gave it to." Jack's gaze softened a lot. "Why didn't you say earlier?" I sighed. "The past is in the past. You've seen that I'm doing well now. If you have any conscience, you should let me go." It was so clear, but Jack clearly hadn't understood. "Stop saying these angry words. I admit I was excessive in the past, and I'll be more careful in the future. Grace, you pursued me for so long, and now suddenly changing your mind, isn't it just playing hard to get? I've come to find you twice now, there won't be a third time." I laughed, shook my head, and said to Jack, "Jack, you're still as self-absorbed as ever. I don't love you anymore, really. I hope you stop fooling yourself." "Thank you." Jack, being a proud person, naturally felt embarrassed after I said that and didn't dare to pester me anymore. I watched him walk away. Without hesitation, I closed the door firmly. As I drew the curtains closed after taking a shower, I saw Jack's car still parked downstairs, with the crimson glow of his cigarette flickering under the big tree. He was waiting for me, I knew. He was regretful, I knew. But what did that have to do with me? I had given him countless chances. If he had done just one thing in these 7 years that touched me, I wouldn't have been this resolute now. In college, he was the head of the student union. I, who was usually quiet, joined the student union just to get close to him. He was outstanding, always top 3 in academics. I worked hard to study, just so my name could appear next to his on the notice board. After graduation, he said he wanted to start a company and asked if I wanted to join him. I gave up the opportunity for further study abroad and chose to be with him without any hesitation. He said he liked gentle and understanding people, so I was quiet and obedient. I knew he couldn't forget his Vivian. She had been sick for a long time. Vivian was always in Jack's heart and eyes. When he got drunk, he used to tell me, "I can't forget her. I've known her since childhood. She is so foolish that she even told me while she was sick to take care of myself. And not to forget her." How could I forget about her? I knew everything about their relationship. Back then, I naively wanted to protect Jack and even surpass his Vivian. I gave up myself for all these years to catch up with him, to make him like May was isolated and helpless. But after leaving him, I realized how many people loved me, my parents, who cherished me, Daisy, my dearest friend. After finding myself, I understood that Jack was a terrible partner, and the person I used to be was on the verge of collapse. Now, I am my parents' pride, Daisy's support, and my colleagues' reliance. I no longer need to be someone in others' eyes. I don't have to compete with others. I am finally free. Daisy hurt her foot while modeling and needed time to recover. Vincent came to help me expand the company's business and took me to high-end social events. I linked arms with him, and he introduced me to everyone with a smile. This is Grace. Although a newly emerging design company, it has entered the high-end market in just 6 months. Everyone took my business card with a smile. We discussed design, market trends, and stocks together. At first, I didn't understand much, but after listening attentively for a long time, I could now give specific advice and opinions. Vincent jokingly said I had a breakthrough. Indeed, after speaking, the business partners seemed more satisfied with me. Occasionally, other female companions were introduced, but everyone just complimented their beauty. In their eyes, female companions were just accessories. Eventually, I spotted a familiar figure in the crowd, Jack walking towards us with his secretary. As he saw me, surprise flashed in his eyes. In a whisper, Vincent asked, "Is it resolved?" I nodded with a smile. "Of course, you know my capabilities, right?" Vincent nodded with a smile. "Of course, my dad praised you as well." It's not easy to earn his recognition. Jack raised his glass with a smile and said to everyone, "Sorry for being late." Without introducing the secretary beside him, everyone understood that she was merely a secretary, and they wouldn't even bother asking. Things were just that practical here. Partners and bosses had the same status, while spouses and girlfriends had a different status. At the bottom were secretaries or those without official titles. And now, I had climbed a rung in the business world. In the bathroom, the secretary came over with a sneer, "You sure have your ways. You've climbed up so quickly, but have you ever thought about how they would cooperate with a woman like you?" I looked at her somewhat distorted expression in the mirror and gave her a faint smile. There was no point in arguing with someone who wasn't on the same level. Seeing that I didn't respond, the secretary became even more pleased with herself. "Even if you've been with Jack for 7 years, what does it matter? In the end, you still lost to me. He loves me." As I finished packing my makeup, I calmly replied, "Jack really likes you. I wish you two 100 years of happiness." I said it sincerely, without a hint of emotion. Pausing for a moment, I added with a smile as I looked at the secretary's frustrated expression, "Since he loves you so much, why didn't he introduce you properly earlier?" The secretary couldn't maintain her composure any longer. I smiled to myself, thinking she really lacked emotional intelligence. Back in the private room, the bosses asked about our collaboration, and it was clear that in the game between me and Jack, I had won effortlessly. In terms of connections, Vincent outshone him. In terms of skills, my design ability was top-notch in the country. Everyone wasn't foolish, they knew the tide had turned. Now that the task was done, I didn't linger, I greeted Vincent and went to the parking lot. To my surprise, Jack was waiting next to my car. There were many cigarette butts on the ground, indicating he had waited for me for quite a while. "Grace, I'll take you back," said Jack, as if it were a matter of course. I stood there and watched the security guards patrolling not far away. Only then did I relax a bit. I can't believe I'd become so untrusting of him. Jack furrowed his brow, a bit impatiently said, "Don't make me get rough." I took out my phone, disgusted. "If you get rough, I'll call the police." Looking at me, Jack said meaningfully, "You've changed." I smirked and said, "Of course, I don't love you anymore. And I've become confident. It's like what Vincent said to me at the banquet today, Grace, you've changed so much in just half a year." I smiled and asked, "Have I become prettier?" Vincent nodded and said with a smile, "Now you exude confidence all over, very charming." A confident woman is the most beautiful. After many breakups, I learned some things. Like, Jack would also bring breakfast. Holding a tray full of breakfast, I glanced at my watch and said, "You have 5 minutes at most, say what you want to say quickly." Jack paused, looking a bit irritated, but quickly restrained himself. "Let's start over." I shook my head and said, "No, Vincent is pursuing Daisy. Daisy once joked that if I got back with Jack, she would lose friendship, career, and the affection of her parents. But he's just an ex, not even a dozen exes can change that." Jack softened his voice, "What if I pursue you?" I chuckled. 7 years later? Jack said nothing. I walked past him, feeling the burning gaze behind me, but the belated affection is lighter than air. Surprisingly, Jack was quite patient. He actually brought breakfast for a whole month in a row. Watching his face getting more haggard each day, I found it quite amusing. Perhaps, when I used to bring him breakfast, he felt the same way. Indeed, the one who is loved is fearless. Over the weekend, I received a call from Auntie, saying Jack was drunk, calling out my name. I calmly said, "If he's drunk, call an ambulance. I'm not a doctor." Then added, "When he's sober, tell him bothering someone like this is really annoying." After that, I hung up. Daisy gave me a thumbs up. I smiled, raised my glass, and clinked with them, "Cheers." At the company's annual party, Vincent and I prepared a generous year-end bonus, enough to pay for a house down payment. Everyone was very happy. I asked Vincent with a smile, "I took out my bonus, what about you?" Seeing them so happy, Vincent smiled brilliantly, "Money is just a concept to me. I spend for joy. Seeing them happy makes me happy too. The life of the wealthy is so simple." But unexpectedly, Jack showed up again, this time holding 99 roses. He kneeled in front of me, holding a large engagement ring, and said sincerely, "Grace, let's get married." His tone was sincere, his eyes warm and tender. I knew he really wanted to propose. Just like before when I held a soda can pull ring, joking that if he proposed to me, I would say I do. All out of sincerity. I crouched in front of him and said seriously, "Jack, it's too late, I don't love you anymore, do you know? After leaving you, I realized how big the world is, how many people love me. The me who was once so humble in front of you is now a treasure in someone else's heart. If you can't forget me, then cling on. But I hope you stay far away from me and don't disturb my life." Jack teary-eyed said, "No, I was wrong, I've fired the secretary. I promise to love only you from now on." I smiled lightly, "So what? Do you expect me to accept your belated apology?" "Jack, your love is really cheap." Jack changed, he seemed to have completely lost himself, and his temper towards me was as good as ever. I said, "For you, I'm willing to do anything." "So, did you say the same things to Vivian too?" I saw Jack's face change. "You did, right? She's your moonlight, I know I can't compete for a place in your heart with her. So, I let go, you let yourself go, stop bothering me if you don't love me." The secretary is not a problem at Allen these 7 years, no one has entered Jack's heart. Including me. I have self-awareness, and I really don't care anymore. I loved you, and after we broke up, I realized I had already fallen for you. Jack stopped me. Grace, don't go. I really don't want to be without you. But after the breakup, I realized how outstanding and amazing I am. I am no longer anyone's appendage. I pushed Jack away, and coldly said, Jack, I don't love you anymore. In early spring, I participated in a foreign design competition and unexpectedly won the gold prize, making headlines in the newspaper for 3 days. The company's design orders were booked 6 months in advance. Vincent stopped modeling and focused on running the design company, preparing to open a branch because Daisy agreed to be with him. On Daisy's wedding day, I cried like a baby. Because watching her be happier than me is more important, and my parents didn't rush me into a relationship. Jack is still pursuing me, but he has learned not to disturb me because I really did call the police. He is in pain, saying I'm heartless. Now I have looks, money, and figure. What kind of man can't I find? Why look for men in the garbage dump? My future is just beginning.